John Wesley began life as a happy byproduct of a family dispute in the local Anglican parsonage in Epworth, England, in 1702. His parents had had a royal row over praying for the current king. His mother, Susanna, had refused to say Amen after the family prayers for the reigning monarch, William III. As she remembered the event, her husband Samuel had immediately kneeled down and imprecated the divine vengeance upon himself and all his posterity if ever he touched me more or came to bed with me before I had begged God's pardon and his. So Samuel had gone off in a huff. When he at last decided to return, John Wesley was conceived. He was number 15 in a family of 19 children. Both Susanna and Samuel Wesley were formidable in their own way, and they both left their mark on John, who was born on June 17, 1703, and lived until March 2, 1791. They began life as dissenters, that is, those who rejected the vision of Christianity developed by the Anglican Church after the Reformation. Independently of each other, they had examined the theological issues of the day for themselves and been converted to the Anglican tradition. Susanna was the daughter of a distinguished dissenting preacher and had made ample use of her father's library for her research. She made the move to the Anglican tradition when she was 12. As long as Susanna lived, she had a powerful influence on her son, beginning with intensive home schooling in which Thursdays were devoted to the intellectual and spiritual care of John. Samuel Wesley had gone over to Anglicanism as a young man, went up to Oxford to study for the priesthood, became a minor churchman of his day, and devoted 40 years of his life to his contrary parishioners. Given this background, it is no surprise that John Wesley was steeped in the Anglican Church of his day. While he led a renewal movement within it that ultimately went its own way, he never wavered in his own sense of loyalty. He loved the Church of England dearly, gloried in its treasures, pined over its faults, and worked mightily to goad it into a deeper spirituality and into a more effective service to God. John Wesley inherited a rich theological tradition, and he was steeped in its ways of piety and ritual. From the age of 11, in 1714, until he sailed for Georgia in the New World in 1735, he spent most of his life in Anglican educational institutions, first as a student and then as a lecturer in logic and Greek. As a Fellow of Lincoln College, Oxford, he received a living from the Church of England until he married. He was totally immersed in his church's worship and prayers, shaped in a host of ways by its wonderful intellectual balance, its openness to truth, its stately presence in politics and country, its internal linguistic beauty, and its sense of humble grandeur and confidence. While Oxford University was in his day something of a glorified high school crossed with a finishing school for grandees, he gained a priceless education there as a student and teacher that served him well throughout his career. He learned well how to articulate and defend his ideas, even when they were daft and irregular. When he reluctantly abandoned the university to work as an itinerant preacher, he took with him an abundance of skills and self-assurance. In his late 30s, Wesley tended to underestimate the depth of his early spiritual life, but there can be no doubt about the genuineness of his faith. He was an ardent servant of God, becoming first a priest and then an enthusiastic missionary. In preparation for his ordination as a deacon in 1725, he devoted himself to a life of holiness. He read avidly in the literature of personal sanctity, working across the theological spectrum that was available to him. When his brother Charles and some friends began a small group ministry at Oxford University devoted to Bible study, prayer, and service to the needy, he readily joined, becoming the natural leader. He was not afraid of hard names or opposition, and later came to see this experiment in small group ministry as the nucleus of his Methodist societies. Such was his commitment and diligence that he became a missionary to the New World. He persuaded his brother Charles to go with him. Wesley's personal prayers, his obsession with spiritual discipline, his rigour in matters of church law,